You know, Tony Rice's guitar is just, it's a dreadful for a collector. It's got a Gretsch fretboard on it, for one thing.
Really?
With an extra fret. It's got a 21 fret
Wow.
fingerboard with binding on it, and the sound hole has been enlarged, ridiculously large, enlarged, and no one's really sure how that happened. That guitar used to belong to Clarence White, you know, who was a fantastic flat picker who left us in 1973. That he was a real visionary, and he actually, you know, transferred his playing over to electric guitar. He was with the Byrds and the Flying Burrito Brothers and a few other bands at the time. But Tony's guitar belonged to Clarence, and before that, we're not sure, but anyway, the sound hole has been enlarged, and that's just, you know, it's a great sounding guitar. It's a 1935 D28, and it's become synonymous with Tony's playing and Clarence's. So virtually every guitar maker that builds dreadnoughts now has a version like Santa Cruz has the Tony Rice model.
Yeah.
And it has the enlarged sound hole.
Right.
And
Brazilian rosewood. It's all it's as much as they can make it like Clarence's guitar.
Yes, they have a standard Tony Rice model, which is Indian rosewood, and then the professional model, which is can be Brazilian and very expensive, and Adirondack spruce on the top. And then Collings made a guitar years ago called the Clarence White model. Well, apparently he wasn't really licensed to use the name Clarence White, and Clarence's widow was negotiating a deal with Martin to put out a reissue. Martin was the last one to jump on board with
the endorsement things or whatever.
Well, with reissuing the because years and years ago, back in the early '80s, you know, Santa Cruz came up with the Tony Rice model, which had the enlarged sound hole, and you know, Collings did one called the Clarence White model because they couldn't use Tony's name, and then Martin now has the Clarence White model, and then so Collings changed his very cleverly to CW, which they say stands for Collings Winfield, because Winfield, Kansas is where they have the national flat picking championships every year.
Right.
So everybody's got their version of it. I know one guy who took a standard D28 from the 80s, and while he was watching a football game, he took a file and he chiseled out his sound hole. It looked terrible. It was all uneven. It looked like, he did it with a rat tail file or something, and he showed it to me, and he goes, I really think it made the guitar sound better. And I just went, well, if you say so.
Yeah.
And Tony has gone on record as cautioning people not to mutilate their guitars just so it looks like his.
Yeah.
You know, that's just, you know, it was like that when he got it. Nobody knows who really did it. At least I don't. I've never heard any stories. But as far as the sound with the enlarged sound hole, I'm not, you know, I don't have much of an opinion on it. There's people who claim it, I think it does something for the sound. Some players have modified their guitars.
It could be the Emperor's New Clothes.
Personally, I don't think it does much. In fact, if anything, I would think it would hurt the sound. You have less
vibrating
area on the top.
Yeah.
And you know, Tony's sound comes from Tony. You know, and it's not because the guitar has an enlarged sound hole. That guitar, it's a nice guitar. I had the opportunity of playing it once, but it was not, at least for my technique, which is, you know, light years behind Tony's, but I thought it was a good sounding guitar, but my impression of at the time, it wasn't the best sounding D28 I'd ever heard.
Right. So this was Clarence White's guitar.
Yeah.
So you actually did get a chance to play it.
Oh, a long time ago.
Okay.
Yeah. It was, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, he let me hold it. You know?
Yeah, right. Yeah, while he was walking up on stage or something.
Hold this, I'm going to go get a beer.
Yeah, really.
So, of course, no, that's not what happened. He let me play it a little bit. But I've heard, you know, since then I've heard better sounding 28s. And his has just become, you know, like a symbol. You know, it's a great guitar. I mean, and he makes it sound, you know, all his recordings are virtually done with that guitar. And it's, you know, but the tone he gets is from his, you know, his technique and his, you know, just, it's sometimes just more than technique. It's just, you know, I don't know. It's almost just a heart and a spiritual thing. It's just, it's like a living, breathing entity that's inside and able to express it through this particular instrument. You know, so I mean, really great players, you know, just have their kind of their own signature sound. As far as producing a good tone, I mean, there's, you know, there's players who they learn how to play the riffs and stuff, but when I first started playing mandolin, I learned some fiddle tunes, and I could play them pretty fast, but I had this kind of thin, sandpapery tone. And so I'd go to jam with people, and you couldn't hear me, you know, and then people eventually, I just, you know, be like, you know, just kind of get ignored, you know, you know, because nobody can hear you. Don't mind this guy.
Just, don't let him take a solo, because everybody will.
Well, you know, so the importance of learning a song, it's equally important to produce a good tone. And if there's some player that you like, you know, you really like the way they sound, not just what they play, but the sound they get out of their instrument, there's nothing wrong with trying to reproduce that, or their style, because I can guarantee you, if you pursue somebody as a mentor and a goal and something in mind, that it will lead you to your own style. You know, eventually you'll incorporate what they have into your playing. You know, if you pursue it hard enough, and you will, you know, then that will lead you to kind of, you know, to your own style, which is an outgrowth. There's a bunch of really great players who started off listening to other players, and you can hear it in their playing, but then they've kind of taken it a little different direction. And so once you emulate somebody, don't just stop there. You know, use it as kind of a springboard to your, you know, and if you know, if you get into that musical aspect of it, you will get your own sound. You know, that it's great to have a sound in mind that you really want to produce. You just really, God, I love the way that sounds. What can I do to get that tone? For me, it was David Grisman, you know, on mandolin. I just really loved the way that his mandolin sounded, you know, and you know, the realization was it was him doing it, you know. It wasn't, you know, a player who's not very skilled could pick up his mandolin and it would sound dreadful, you know. And then, you know, it holds true for any instrument, you know. Just that would be one of the things I would tell people, is to find somebody you like, and listen to this guy right here.
Thanks. So.